Homi Bhabha's The Location of Culture, first published in 1994, is a foundational text in post-colonial studies and critical theory. It has reshaped how scholars understand culture, identity, and power in the context of colonialism and its aftermath. Bhabha's work challenges traditional binaries, colonizer-colonized, self-other, identity-difference, by offering a complex, nuanced framework for thinking about cultural interactions, hybridity, and resistance. Background and context. Homi Bhabha is a prominent post-colonial theorist, professor, and critical thinker, whose ideas emerge at the intersection of cultural theory, psychoanalysis, and philosophy. His work addresses the legacies of colonialism, specifically how colonial power and knowledge shape identities, social relations, and cultural meanings. The Location of Culture collects key essays in which Bhabha articulates new concepts to understand cultural encounters in a post-colonial world. Unlike older post-colonial theories that often focused on binary oppositions, Bhabha emphasizes the ambivalent, unstable, and performative nature of identity and culture, which are never fixed but always in process. Key concepts in The Location of Culture. Hybridity. One of Bhabha's most famous contributions is the concept of hybridity. Hybridity refers to the creation of new cultural forms and identities that arise through the interaction, intermingling, and negotiation between colonizer and colonized cultures. Instead of seeing colonial cultures as rigid and opposed, Bhabha shows how cultures intermingle and produce something in between. Hybridity destabilizes the idea of pure or authentic cultural identities. This in-between space, or third space, allows for new possibilities of meaning and resistance. The hybrid subject is not simply a victim or replica of colonial power, but an agent who can challenge and subvert colonial authority by appropriating and transforming colonial discourse. 2. Mimicry. Mimicry is another central idea in Bhabha's theory. It refers to the way colonized subjects imitate the colonizer's language, behavior, and customs, but with a difference. This mimicry is almost the same, but not quite, producing a form of mockery or ambivalence. Mimicry threatens colonial authority because it exposes its artificiality and incompleteness. When colonized people mimic the colonizer, they reveal that colonial power is not natural or fixed, but contingent and vulnerable. However, mimicry is also ambivalent, as it can reinforce colonial authority while simultaneously undermining it. 3. Ambivalence. Bhabha highlights the ambivalent nature of colonial discourse, which is caught between attraction and repulsion, familiarity and strangeness. Colonial power is not simply oppressive, it is also marked by uncertainty and contradiction. The colonizer's desire to assert dominance is complicated by the colonized subject's resistance, appropriation, and refusal. This ambivalence destabilizes simple binaries of power and identity, revealing the complexity of colonial relationships. The third space. Perhaps the most influential metaphor in The Location of Culture is the idea of the third space. This is an interstitial hybrid space where cultural meanings are negotiated, contested, and transformed. It is neither the colonizer's space nor the colonized space, but an in-between zone that allows for new identities and cultural forms to emerge. The third space challenges essentialist notions of culture and identity by emphasizing their fluidity and constructedness. It also offers a space for resistance and political agency, as marginalized subjects can write back to colonial power from this liminal position. Theoretical influences. Bhabha's work is deeply influenced by several intellectual traditions. Post-structuralism and deconstruction, drawing on theorists like Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault, Bhabha questions fixed meanings and stable identities. He sees culture and identity as constructed through language, discourse, and power relations, always partial and provisional. Psychoanalysis, influenced by Freud and Lacan, Bhabha explores how colonial identities are formed through psychological processes such as splitting, ambivalence, and repetition. The colonized subject is split between the desire to imitate the colonizer and the need to assert difference. Marxism and critical theory. Bhabha's concern with power, ideology, and resistance connects to Marxist critiques of imperialism and capitalism, but he also critiques simplistic economic determinism by emphasizing cultural and discursive dimensions of colonial power. Ashashtra major essays and themes in The Location of Culture. The book collects a series of important essays, some of the most notable being Of Mimicry and Man, the Ambivalence of Colonial Discourse. Here Bhabha develops the ideas of mimicry and ambivalence, showing how mimicry is both a tool of colonial power and a site of resistance. The essay argues that colonial authority depends on the production of the other, but this process is never fully stable. Signs Taken from For Wonders, Questions of Ambivalence and Authority Under a Tree Outside Delhi, May 1817. This essay examines a colonial encounter in India to explore how colonial knowledge is both authoritative and unstable. Bhabha demonstrates how colonial representations are ambivalent and contested. The Commitment to Theory. Bhabha critiques both traditional Marxism and identity politics, advocating for a nuanced post-colonial theory that recognizes the complexity of cultural identity beyond binaries and essentialisms. Dissemination, Time, Narrative, and the Margins of the Modern Nation. This essay explores how post-colonial nations produce narratives of identity and history, showing how cultural identity is always marked by fragmentation and ambivalence, significance and impact. The location of culture has had a profound impact on post-colonial studies, cultural studies, and critical theory. It has become a foundational text for understanding the complexities of cultural identity in a globalized post-colonial world. Bhabha's concepts of hybridity, mimicry, and the third space have been widely used to analyze everything from literature, film, and art to political movements and diasporic identities. His work helped shift focus from colonial history as a one-sided story of domination to a more dynamic view of cultural interaction, negotiation, and resistance. Moreover, Bhabha's approach has influenced feminist theory, queer theory, and critical race studies, providing tools to think about intersectionality and the fluidity of identity. Criticisms and debates. Despite its influence, Bhabha's work has faced critiques. Some scholars argue that his language is overly dense and abstract, making his ideas difficult to apply concretely. Others question the political efficacy of hybridity and third space, worrying that these concepts can obscure ongoing inequalities and material power imbalances. Critics also argue that Bhabha's focus on discourse and representation can downplay the importance of economic and political structures in post-colonial contexts. Still, even these critiques acknowledge that Bhabha's work opens valuable avenues for rethinking culture and identity. Conclusion. Homi Bhabha's The Location of Culture remains a cornerstone of contemporary thought on post-colonial identity, culture, and power. By emphasizing hybridity, ambivalence, and the third space, Bhabha disrupts simplistic binaries and static identities, showing culture as a site of negotiation and transformation. His work invites us to rethink not only colonial histories, but also contemporary global cultural interactions, diaspora, migration, and the ongoing struggles over identity and representation in an interconnected world.